I want to go back to the whole conversation of vouchers, and you talk about school choice. I think part of the problem the conversation hasn't moved is because Republicans are scared of black folks. And I do believe if they're able to change their messaging and begin to have a real discussion to say, why are we allowing and being satisfied with kids going to sorry schools? And people say, well, I can't really believe you have that position. I say, look, I went to public schools my whole life. But when you're seeing low-performing schools with a failure rate of 80, 90%, and people keep saying, well, hey, let's just give it another try. I'm sorry. If I'm a parent, I don't want my kid in that kind of school. I don't want it. And so I think parents also have to force these black Democrats to say, you need to make a decision. You can't say you want our kids to learn, but then you keep supporting folks who are in support of the same broken system.
How soon is that going to happen, Roland? I mean, like I say, since the 80s, we've been saying the same thing.
I think it has to happen when folks like us talk about it.
We keep reelecting. Well, yeah, talking about it is a beginning, but we said that 30 years ago. The problem is that Republicans aren't scared of black folks. They just don't want to spend any money. And even to back up their own program like vouchers. Vouchers aren't free. We're talking about spending some money.
Absolutely.
And that's the problem. My good friend Pat Buchanan, with whom I agree on nothing, was very candid about it when he said that why are white parents going to pay for a program that predominantly is benefiting blacks and Hispanics? They don't see poor whites as sharing in the problem. And until they buy into the problem, so to speak, you're not going to see white support, which means you're not going to see Republican support.
Which is one of the reasons why I've always said the president, fine, you went to the University of North Carolina, you went to college campuses, but if you want to have a substantive conversation about how do we change America, the president needs to go to a place where you got some broke white folks and look them in the eye and say, you were in the exact same position as parents on the south side of Chicago, parents in Detroit.
He's doing the exact opposite. Back 4 years ago, he didn't even campaign in West Virginia. He had like 3 visits to Hillary Clinton's 30 visits.
Right.
I mean, he's not even trying to reach that group because he's going to spend his energies where he can really, where the picking is good, so to speak.
Now, this whole notion of who's cool or whatever, Karl Rove put together this ad that they put online, or maybe they put on television. I think it's a pretty stupid ad, but here's a little bit of it.
Yeah. Breezy of the United States. So in love.
Nice. He's a jackass. He's a jackass.
Okay, here's why to me the ad is stupid. The first 30 seconds, dumb, because it didn't work last time. But when you look at that last part, when they're targeting young voters, it's only a 7-point gap between President Obama and Mitt Romney when it comes to millennials. The people who were ecstatic about then Senator Obama don't feel the same way today.
Yeah, I mean, this ad is an absolute waste of time and resources. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. It's, from my perspective, if I'm looking at this ad, it seems to me that that's an ad that's very supportive of the president, unless I go all the way to the end. And so I think for Republicans to focus on something like this is just absolutely silly.
Angela, it's very interesting. I speak on college campuses all across the country. And the reaction to the president is totally different today than it was in 08, in 09, and it really began to change in 2010. And I do think they have a young voter problem. They need to have a much larger gap between Romney and President Obama for him to win when it comes to young voters. And they got to figure out the messaging. I think it goes beyond just going on Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, I think that over time you'll see the president get into more of a campaign mode. They officially announced the kickoff of the campaign, and I don't think that'll be much of a problem. I think the reality of it is, as like the one you just showed, demonstrate that he has a likability factor that young people can relate to. I don't think that's all the way negative, although I do think there were some strong racial undertones.
But if I'm a young voter though, and I can't get a job, and I have student loan debt,
well,
I might like you, but I still need to say, hey, I'm not necessarily feeling your policies.
But he's gone on to college campuses to speak out against this issue, and he's even promised to veto a House bill that would, again, just dismantle the Affordable Care Act, which is something that college students benefit from.
Right,
when you look at his policies over time, he's definitely done a lot for young people.
The message is not just about going on Jimmy Fallon's show and slow jamming the news. I mean, he has a policy message for young people that the White House and the Obama campaign have been really pushing out there. It's the policy that he has proposed for young people, not proposed, but actually passed, the Affordable Care Act, for example.
Yeah, but they're pushing it now, and I'll tell you, when they passed the changes to the Pell Grant bill, it was as if they didn't even exist, and I was talking to the White House going, I'm just curious, you're going to bring it up? I mean, it's because, I mean, again, I get you're in campaign mode. I get you want to now appeal to young voters, but I think when you haven't really done that significantly over the last 3 years.
Don't look at the enthusiasm they had on Election Day 4 years ago. Look at 4 years ago this month, springtime, early summer. The college kids weren't yet really tuned into Obama, and it was over that summer and then after Labor Day when people really got engaged that you saw young voters really. Even my kid got off the couch and went out and volunteered to
no,
vote,
but
to work for
right,
Obama.
right. But that was 08. And but what I'm saying
Yeah.
is, what I'm saying is, when you look at policies, and when you look at were they consistently involved, there has been a lot of frustration with this administration from young voters. And so what I'm saying is the president going on a comedy show, that's one thing. I get popping on two or three college campuses, that's another thing. But I still believe they have a significant messaging problem when you're trying to talk to these folks, because they predicted a drop off. But you're going to need that number to still be around 20-22%.
Of course.
You can't afford to be 15-17%.
But you know what?
Angela?
If you're going to get young voters rolling, you got to go beyond TV talk shows. I'm sorry.
I got you.
But we don't appeal to young people. They want shows like Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, et cetera, et cetera.
Actually,
so that's why
I got 14 to 18-year-olds who watch my show.
Well, that's because you're so hip and with it.
That's
Roland.
right.
Unlike most talk shows, young people, they're watching Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon, The Daily Show, which my kid turned me on to, you know.
Angela.
And so Obama's got to work across the board with all of these programs.
Gotcha, Angela.
I agree. I do think, however, that we are overgeneralizing young people and their social activism. For example, most recently with Trayvon Martin, things like that are crises in our community are the very things that are needed to get young people engaged.
Right.
And I think just not only the stand your ground laws, but the other things like voter suppression, voter ID, I think the young people will be engaged. It'll be a different type of engagement, but they absolutely will be engaged.
I'm making the point. You look at the 2010 elections, the midterm elections in Virginia, we're from 22 to 10% in terms of young voters. All I'm saying is this here.
It's a substantial drop, period.
No. I get substantial drop, period. But I'm making the point. When you have a tough economy and you're trying to get reelected, the last thing you can afford is there to be only a 7-point gap between you and Mitt Romney. It has to be much larger. And again, turnout is still going to be the key. You can say percentage is one thing, but how many of them are going to be that engaged and willing to come out? That's right. It's going to be the key. But if you want to win, you better figure that out.
And
all right, folks.
After Labor Day is when you're going to see that engagement happen.
We shall see. All right. We certainly appreciate it. Angela, Clarence, Cynthia, Chris, thanks a bunch.